and welcome to Smart Talking Women. Now, how do I describe today's guest? Singer-songwriter, actress, written plays, one-woman show, adoptee activist. No, she's my mate. That's how I'm going to describe her. My mate. Hello, Zara.
Hello, Yvette.
It's we go
when you said, how am I going to describe her?
Not sure. There's a deep intake of breath there. So we've known each other forever, haven't we? In fact, we were just trying to count up how long we've known each other, but we don't have to say that. No, we won't. But we met, oh my goodness me, we were working at the BBC, weren't we? And my memories are of different BBC shows, the different shows that you could jump to, couldn't you, at that time? Yeah. So, when was your first memory? Can you remember?
Bananarama. When they dressed us as Bananarama.
And we didn't know which one we were going to be.
Yeah.
Which one?
I still have the photo.
Yes, I know.
Of us dressed as Bananarama. It's so good. And the French maid's outfit in the BBC canteen for the Les Dennis show, and Yvette said, I demand robes, because we were standing in the canteen all, dressed as there were like three of us.
Oh.
And we got a lot of comments back in those days.
And attention.
There was no Me Too movement.
There wasn't, and there should have been something to protect us, because I remember that the French maids, that you reminded me, and then there was the Ken Dodd show, and I remember Ken taking centre stage, and we had to link arms with him and walk down the stage, and we were rehearsing it for the live TV that night. Do you remember the little outfit, the little, again, tiny white coat?
Yes.
And he kept telling us it's not short enough. So they kept putting us back in to a wardrobe, and then we'd come back with shorter and shorter and shorter. And those were the days where anything went really like that, didn't
it? Absolutely. Yeah, we were scientists. No, we were the assistants. Scientists,
yeah.
Assistants.
And we always were tarts, weren't we?
And we always got cast together, which might say something about the pair of us.
But we
and
did.
That's how I got to know you, because we kept showing up on the same
shows and same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then
that's so funny.
I remember that you were saying, I'm singing, I'm gigging, I'm going to be gigging a lot. And I said, oh, I'd love to go to the gigs. And I went to the Mean Fiddler. Now that really, for me, I'd never seen you sing before. And I was really knocked out by, you had such a husky voice, really sexy voice. And I remember thinking, oh God, I wish I could sing like that. And then the next thing I knew, you were going off to America.
Yes, but lots of stuff happened in between, because when I was singing, I was backing singing for Bob Geldof and Nick Kamen in the 80s for all those bands, and then I was doing the extra work. And then...
But how did you go from sort of Mean Fiddler to then being on Top of the Pops? Because...
I think it was the other way around. I did the Top of the Pop stuff first.
Right.
But this random... I sort of fell into this randomly, into a video. You know, we used to go for auditions for various things. Ended up in a music video. Then I decided to be in a band. I just had this idea. I had a boyfriend saying, I want to be in a... He's like, do you want to be in a band? And I just went... Okay, like you do.
Yeah.
And then it all just sort of took off. So I was working with those bands first, then I was doing all the extra work, and then started doing the Mean Fiddler stuff, because I realised I was more of a writer than I realised. You know, it was fun working for other people, but I really enjoyed learning how to put songs together.
Right.
So I started co-writing. And yeah, I mean, the Mean Fiddler was such a great place in the day. Back you could never park.
No, but it was always heaving,
it was heaving. It was just a great venue.
But you never talked about sort of backing singing with Nick Kamen, or I didn't know any of this.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's never told me any of this, because I would have actually bagged tickets quite clearly. I'm really sad about it.
I know, I was so sad. I saw the paper the other day and I was...
Yeah, so young, so young.
Yeah, very sad.
So, I know that you did a lot of touring, so how did you meet Bob Geldof?
Again, I was with a friend who was a singer. I had done one gig in my life at the London Palladium, and somebody phoned that night and said, we need another girl in Bob's video, do you know anybody? And she said, well, I have this girl here. Record company came to the house that night, I mean, it's so different back then to have a look at me. Oh, I was like dying. I mean, I was young, 20 or something.
Were you nervous?
Well, yeah, but I'm embarrassed, that you knew somebody was coming to have a look at you. It didn't matter how I could sing.
Yeah.
So he was embarrassed. I remember that, and my friend put loads of makeup on me. She put this lipstick on me, and she goes, "She's so cute," and he was just like, yes, she's fine. Sign the contract, and then it was like Top of the Pops, and then I ended up just really working on my singing.
Right.
And so by the time, because all those shows back then were all miming, and then her boyfriend was Chester Kamen, who worked with his brother Nick. So then we were doing Top of the Pops with Nick, and back in those days, people would just sort of recommend you, or they just ask you.
You had a much better opportunity, didn't you? The door seemed to be a little bit wider.
Once you were in.
Yeah.
So I did quite a lot of that, and Matt Bianco, I used to work with them. And now it all, it's all on YouTube, so I show my kids.
I
and they're
love
just like,
it.
oh my God, look at your hair. So
everybody had big hair. I don't know what happened, but I think it's fabulous because you've got all of this stuff to look back on Top of the Pops.
But I hadn't learned my craft, it was almost like I fell into it and I did it the opposite of everybody else. And then I did the training. Then I worked on my vocals and music.
So was there a part of you when you were doing that, did you feel, I don't know, fraudulent's the wrong word?
Oh, no, I did, absolutely. I was just like, they're going to find out.
They are
going to find out that I actually do not know what I'm doing.
Right.
But because of the extra work and because of some of the modelling stuff we had done, I knew what it was like to be in front of a camera.
Right.
So that helped. But I absolutely, suddenly I was hanging out with Duran Duran and all these 80s, and I'm thinking, I've only done one gig.
Oh.
And they don't know.
Yeah.
Years later, after a while I told them and they thought it was hilarious. But
hang on a minute. So for somebody who literally done one gig. Then you're on Top of the Pops.
Yeah.
Then at that time you're working with the big names.
Yes.
Didn't you work with Bananarama?
I did a support tour with Bananarama.
So,
and then we ended up being
Bananarama. Oh, that's very odd, isn't it? So, but then how did you end up going on tour with Bob Geldof?
Just from I was in his video, and that was it. From This Is the World Calling, I was in that video,
that's crazy.
And then from there he wanted the band to stay the same.
Right.
So I'm at home practicing for hours. If they
hairbrush.
I can't see. But with him it didn't really matter that much. No offence, Bob. But he wasn't like the best vocalist. So I mean, if you went off key, I'm joking. So I just practiced because I knew I was like, this is what I want to do.
Right.
And then I would listen. Back in the day, I had a cassette tape machine, and I would record myself singing over like Stevie Nicks, because I felt her voice was my register. So I never had lessons, and I would just practice, and then I'd play it back, and I'd be like, ooh, that sounds dreadful, or I would try and learn from it. So that's what I did for hours and hours. So
because I didn't know any of this about your touring, okay,
I don't know how she didn't know.
Because she never told me, so that's why I didn't know. So I'm going to ask, for me, really just for me, and what was it like, okay, when you're getting ready for Top of the Pops, that whole experience, and they say, here's your dressing room, and you're ready to go on. I mean, if you could take us through, what was that feeling like, and then getting on that stage and being introduced by the top DJ of that day, wasn't it? And they, in themselves, were stars, weren't they?
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
well, the funny thing is, thinking about it, there were two sides to me. I was painfully shy as a young woman, feeling like a fraud, so insecure, had my own issues, which is a whole other topic. So I was coming from this very insecure place, but there was also a side of me that was like, oh, I love this. A dressing room, I was a bit sort of princess-like too. But Top of the Pops, I just watched everything. I was like just observing what everybody was doing. Right. Top of the Pops back then was miming. I think even the lead singer was miming. So when we worked with Bob, we were miming to like Annie Lennox and Alison Moyet.
No.
Because they'd recorded the album. Yes, people didn't know that. And then with Nick Kamen, he had Each Time You Break My Heart.
Yeah.
We were miming to Madonna. Actually, she wrote the song and did the backing vocals.
Because they were friends, weren't they?
Yeah, she found him. I mean, Nick
right.
Kamen was, the gorgeous guy in the Levi's ad. And it was funny, he was only, like 3 or 4 years older than me.
Right.
But at that age, when you're only 20, 21, it felt like he was so much older than me.
Yeah.
More mature.
Yeah.
Loveliest guy. Just very, very, no ego. Very unassuming, dating beautiful models and all the rest of it. So we did I did Top of the Pops twice with him.
Right.
And then we did other TV shows that we would go to. You would tour to Italy, France, and their equivalent of music shows.
I knew nothing.
Which were weird, because I remember one time with Matt Bianca, there was me and another girl, we were doing our little dancing, and some girl was just standing on the stage, dressed in this weird outfit, and we're all like, who is this person? It was like the director's daughter, in wherever we were, what country, just said, no, we want my daughter to dance on stage. Just like these random things.
Right.
But Top of the Pops in England, I mean, it was very fun. There'd be Alison Moyet would be on one stage.
Oh,
it was at that
loved
kind of time.
Yeah.
And Boy George, who became, hi girls, how are you?
Was he nice?
It was so nice, so nice.
Oh, because I imagine I want him to be nice. There's
he was so nice.
So
really
not
lovely.
Not like this bitchy persona.
Not at all.
Really?
Not at all. And we would see him on various things, because back in those days, the bands would end up doing the same TV shows in Europe.
Yeah.
So I remember running for a plane when I was working with Bob, and for some reason somebody was late, and Bob was like screaming, stop, hold the plane. And we're all running, and there's like Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet, everybody's on the plane, they're all like cheering as we come.
Oh my goodness, how did you not even think to mention this?
I know.
So Bob, or should we say Sir Bob? Sir Bob.
Yeah.
So he looked to me like oh gosh, he did look a state, but but that's what was so refreshing about him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What was he like to be around, to hang around, to tour with?
Yeah, I mean, he's a very regular guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think it's that thing of when you work for famous people, but you're with them all the time, and you're on a tour bus and you're in hotels, and they just become like a normal person. It's only when you're out in public that you realise that they're famous. Everybody knew who Bob was, particularly at that time because of Live Aid.
Yes, he was worldwide known, wasn't he?
He was worldwide known.
Did that change his persona?
No, not really. I mean, you have to sort of hang out with him to get who he is. He's very funny, but he has an ego like most people, and sometimes he'd yell at us if we did a bad show, and other time. But we had so much fun. But I was learning so much, and one time we were doing TV show. There was a TV show in between the touring, but only 3 of us could go because the rest of the band had to set up.
Right.
So it was Bob and me and the other girl, and he just goes, you play guitar and you play bass, but it was all mine
then, so you could get away with that.
So all I remember was Robert Palmer, with the girls doing that. So I just stood with this bass, and I'm doing all this, and Bob's just turning around like, what are you doing?
Because they don't know what to do with it.
Didn't know what else, because at that time I wasn't playing an instrument. Now,
but you need a triangle,
or a kazoo.
Yes, exactly.
So just things like that. But you know what it was? It was so... I was watching everything. I was very good at observing and learning.
Did you
feel?
Really
wanted to learn.
Sorry to interrupt, but did you feel then, when everything that you did you think this is for a reason, this is a purpose, because I'm learning, because eventually I want to be doing my own thing? So is that sort of...
Absolutely. And I would get anybody to show me a chord on the guitar.
Right.
And then one time Bob was late to a rehearsal, and I got one of the guys to teach me one of the songs we were learning.
Yeah.
And then I pretended to be him. So he comes in and I'm singing in an Irish accent. And impersonating him, he's just like...
Do you miss... Is there any part of you... Did you think that when you eventually stepped away from that, did you ever think, I miss that? Or did you think, I've stepped away at the right time?
I stepped away, for my own personal reasons.
Right.
But also... it was the right time, because really I wasn't just a harmony singer, even though now I'm back to being a harmony singer, which is amazing. But I knew I needed to write more, and that environment, and I'm not just saying with Bob, just the whole environment from where I was at, you know, sex, drugs and rock and roll.
Yeah.
I was in it, and I was not emotionally, it wasn't the best place for me.
So when you're in all of that, was it difficult for you to step away then? Because if you're in the party,
yes,
did you don't sometimes want that party to finish, do
oh,
you?
absolutely.
So that must have been really tough.
It was so hard to walk away, but
yeah.
I knew also emotionally and what I was doing was so not healthy that it was almost like I didn't, you know, do you want to live? Or do you want to die?
And it was that serious, wasn't it, for you?
Yes.
So that must have been really frightening, actually, knowing that if you didn't stop.
You know, it's funny, I don't know, I just knew I wanted to change the way that I felt. And I was so willing by then. Like they always say people have to hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
But my ego was like, but don't you know who I am?
Yeah.
You know, this is what I do. And people that were around me that were helping me are like, we don't really care what you do. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I've been on tour. And they're like, we don't really care.
Yeah.
You know, you need to make some healthy decisions. But I did keep touring. Once I got sober, I did actually tour for a while. I went on with a support band for Bananarama, which had changed. The lead singer had changed. But, you know, I also knew that it wasn't as fulfilling for me. Yes. I wanted to be a writer.
Yeah. So that drive...
That drive in a way was overriding.
Right. So if I
I was grateful for the work, don't get me wrong.
Well, you haven't... I mean, it's amazing, actually, what you've done. It's amazing I didn't really know an awful lot about that side of you. So now we've got...
So bizarre.
So bizarre. The world must look very different for you. And you've made great decisions that you're going to move forward in your life. Now, I was around that time, actually. I was around because I knew, not about your Top of the Pops, but I did know that you were really living a much different lifestyle. And then, of course, you were going to go to America, you told me, which was like such a huge decision.
Yes.
What made you go over there?
Well, I mean, I wanted to go for work, for music, because I was really getting into my music at that time. And also, I was running away from, you know, I had just found my birth mother. You know, I'm adopted.
Yes.
So I got sober, found my birth mother. That was just such an intense experience. And I felt I was juggling these two families. Whereas my adopted mother couldn't meet my birth mother. And it was just anybody who, you know, we can talk another time about adoption.
Yes.
But the layers and the emotion that was coming up in a way what I had always been running from.
And from everybody.
From everybody. And it was almost like in hindsight I could say, no, I'm going because, you know, of my music. I actually think I needed to get away from all of it to keep growing, with, you know, and working on myself and sort of figuring out what it all meant to me.
And if you'd have stayed, what do you think it would have
I think
dragged you
things
down?
Would have got more complicated with my families. It was very, very hard to juggle, to keep everybody happy.
That's the thing, you're people pleasing, aren't you? And
yeah.
For those that are listening, if you think, oh, you know, she's sort of skipping over this, I do know a lot about this part of your life, and it is enormous, and it deserves its own interview, because it, like you say, the layers, the people involved, the family members that you went on to meet that you had no idea existed. I don't feel that I can do it justice, but I think it is something to look later.
And they could read my book, my new book.
Would you like to?
Somebody's Daughter was published in 2018. I recommend that book, even though I had another book, Mother Me, in 2008. But Somebody's Daughter really is the whole story. And also I have years, I think sometimes when we go through things that are really challenging, we need to get older to look back to understand.
Absolutely.
So I understand it more myself. So
well, what we'll do is we'll put the links down below for the books, and obviously your new album as well, but we'll get on to that in a minute.
Yeah.
So now you're in America. Well, I mean, what a change from, and whereabouts in America did you first?
I went to LA.
How was LA?
Well, you know, it's kind of overwhelming, but the weather was great. And it was overwhelming, but it felt like the energy is very positive. You feel like you can do anything.
Oh, fabulous.
But I ended up staying in America, really. I never came back fully, which I'm not saying I recommend for people to do.
Had you intended to?
I never intended to, but I met my, who's now my ex-husband.
Yeah.
That's another story.
Another episode.
The older you get, you have more stories.
Yeah.
And, so I stayed, and then I became a mother very quickly.
Yes.
But I managed to do music.
Around having, now you have 3 children.
Yes, I don't know how.
And in quite quick succession.
Yes.
So how on earth did you juggle that with writing?
Well, when they were in the bath, I would bring the guitar and I'd sit on the loo and I'd just sing. I was always singing to them. And then I did meet a producer there and I managed to do one, a couple of albums.
Right.
But it wasn't easy. I mean, I couldn't go. I was exhausted. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
3 children, you're exhausted. And also becoming a mother brought up more of my adoption stuff. So I began to go to adoption conferences.
Right.
And then I began to speak about my experience and write about my experience. So the music changed a little, but I was beginning to write. That's when I wrote my first book. But then I was writing songs. I mean, what I'm sort of always grateful for is that as somebody who, doesn't do drugs and alcohol anymore, because it just, doesn't help me, where do you put that?
Yes, yeah.
So I'm glad. So for me, it's like, well, it has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So the music and into the writing. That's really what's helped me a lot.
So was your husband supportive of that?
He was supportive, but it was also complicated for him, because he just didn't understand the impact.
No, and I think it's really difficult. It's very difficult for those of us who are not. You can say you know what it feels like, but you can't possibly. No, like you say, there's so many layers to it, so many complications that you don't even really consider until you're talking to somebody. But I think that having 3 children and then having to cope with the different family members back in the UK, like you say, you have a husband who, now your ex-husband, who is difficult for him, but it also must have been difficult for your children, because was there any, as they get older, and they know that mummy obviously has this pull and is speaking at these conventions, and also you help, don't you? You help people with their complicated lives and what they're going through. It must have been for them, did they ever question, well, I've got that grandma, but I've got that grandma?
Yeah, you know what, it's funny, kids are very accepting.
Right.
And that's the crazy thing that I always say. I love all my kids equally.
Yeah.
Kids love whoever equally. So when I talk to adopted parents, or I always say we can love more than one mum.
Yeah.
It's easy for us to do that, but it's everybody else's fear, really.
Yes.
But what was interesting with the music is so I lived in LA for years, and then we moved to New Jersey. Don't ask why. We moved to New Jersey, and I met Run DMC.
Right.
Daryl McDaniels from Run DMC. So I had been doing a little bit of music, but I thought, you know what, it's never going to happen for me. How can it? I think I'd hit 40 and I was like, I have all these children and... So
did you just not think about it?
I kept writing, but I just didn't see how I was going to have a career in it.
Yes.
And then, it's funny how life happens. In America, in a lot of states in America, adoptees cannot get their original birth certificate. Whereas in England, we can. So when I was of age, the laws changed in 75, I could get my original birth certificate.
Right.
And in America, this is not the case. So it means you're in a lot of states. We're very slowly opening them.
Right.
So for an adult adoptee that wants to know their name, they're not allowed to see it. As an adult, even if they're in reunion with their birth mother, this birth certificate is falsified.
Why is this?
That's history, of why they sealed them. So Daryl, I had met. He is a late discovery adoptee.
Right.
And which is somebody that didn't find out till he was older. He knew what was going on in New Jersey. They knew I was from England and that records were open and I could talk about that. And Daryl one day said to me, let's do a song together, because music is what brings us together.
Right.
So he is a black, African-American adoptee. I am a white English girl, adoptee, and we're both exactly the same age, both relinquished by our mothers, different countries. So there was this real commonality that we had. And I wrote from the emotional side, so I had this idea for a song, and then I took it to him and he wrote the rap. And we ended up recording a video, and I included as many adoptees as I could from my organisations. And I'm really proud of this video, which ended up being used at legislation. We rapped at the Senate House. I mean, we went, you know, to show people why it's okay for adoptees to have their original birth certificate.
I've got that track.
Yes,
it's
I'm
brilliant.
legit.
I'm legit. It is a brilliant, brilliant track. It's on Amazon, isn't it?
It's on YouTube.
YouTube, but I downloaded it. It's fabulous.
Yeah.
I really liked it, and the fact that you are coming at it, the two of you, you couldn't get more opposite, could you? So by the time you're in New Jersey, the kids are obviously getting older.
Yes.
At what point did you, or had you never stopped looking for your birth father?
Well, you know, I never stopped looking, but all I knew was that his name was Vittorio and he was Italian. So, you know, it was like, hello, is anybody out there called Vittorio? So it was very difficult because I didn't have a last name. And the story, and actually last night there was a BBC documentary, I didn't see it, I saw a snippet about mothers that relinquished in the 60s and 70s their babies. So as was common at the time, my birth mother was only 16, made to give me up. Father she barely knew, you know, Jewish girl, didn't go down well in the family and all of that. So it was very common in those days. Barbaric, as they're now, you know, things are really beginning to come out about the emotional effect of what happened for all of us, for the mothers and the babies. And adoption is not this, you know, beautiful, wonderful thing. Yeah. It can be, but there are complications. So, you know, when I was first searching, when I searched for my birth mother, of course there wasn't even the internet. Now I know how old we are, but I didn't even have a computer, right? So we could never have predicted what was going to happen in the future. So Ancestry DNA comes out, but even then at the beginning their tests are mother to daughter, father to son. But then they developed over the years another DNA test, which meant that a woman could do a test and find the paternal side. Right. So, you know, I was like, I mean, I had been doing this stuff for years. Here we are, right up to, I was divorced now, 2014. I had gone through all of that emotional upheaval. And other things. I don't want to go into. Okay. So you're on your own. So I'm on my own, basically. On my own. With 3 children. With 3 children. Right. I mean, yeah. But anyway, so then I just thought, I'm going to do this ancestry, but I had no expectation by this point. And it's almost weird when you think about somebody you don't know, but you know that they're your biological father. And I always had this drive to find him. And I don't know, but I now know why. But at the time, I didn't understand why. My birth mother and I, we have a good relationship, but it was troubled at the beginning, as is very common. And, you know, there was some connection. It's okay, you know, it's not bad. But it's been complicated, but better than it was. But I always had this drive. I suppose I still felt I didn't have everything of myself. So I did the Ancestry DNA test in 2015, and you know, you find out what you are, and there it was. I was half Italian, so she hadn't lied. You know, there's in a way you don't even know, is that true? Did she forget? Was there somebody else? And so that was exciting enough for me. And then 2016, the night before Father's Day, I get a match, and it is from a sibling that is related to my birth father. And a whole long story, which I have written about in my book, Somebody's Daughter. We connected, and it turned out she was adopted too, and she's American, and she's living in LA, and she had moved to LA as I had left LA, and she was going to the adoption support group that I used to go to, and she was sitting next to people, but because she was blonde and American and I'm dark and British, they never connected. And I said to a couple of people, I said to a couple of people, she's sharing that she met a Vittorio. Oh, didn't you guys? And they're like, we just didn't even think. Because she's American, she's blonde, you're dark. But when you see us together, you see the resemblance. Now, I'd also been doing my one-woman show, which you had come to, Beneath My Father's Sky, which was my relationship. Again, you know, when things don't always go... When things are difficult in life, I write about them. So my thing was I'll write a play about my relationship with my adoptive father, my search for my birth father, because what else do I do with this? It's so painful that I have to put it somewhere.
And yet, can I just interrupt there? When I watched it, I loved it, your One Woman show. You gave great humour to it.
Yes,
so
you have to.
You really drew like your mother, your adopted mother, so I don't know how...
adopted mother, yeah.
So, but it was really funny that you could look at something quite dark at times and just almost send it up.
Yeah, well that's the new one's going to have to be like that too, because it gets really dark. It's almost so dark that you have to make a joke because you're going mad. But... Anyway, so I matched, and another connection with my sister is another adoptee that I knew from Washington. She knew my sister's birth mother, because my sister's birth mother married her ex-boyfriend. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Mad.
So when I was doing my play, my sister wrote to me and said, I hear you're another adoptee looking for a Vittorio. I don't know if he was ever in London, so I never followed it through.
Right.
I had his name during that time of me doing the play.
Right.
So anyway, I matched with her and she had found Vittorio, and he was living 1 hour from my house in New Jersey. So this man's from Rome, I'm from London. He went to live in the Bahamas for a while before he ended up living in Las Vegas. So when I'm in LA, he's in Las Vegas.
So was that 20 minutes or something, half
or
an
it was
hour?
an hour
Oh,
actually.
that's mad.
And then he had married a woman from New Jersey, and her mother died, and they moved back to her house in New Jersey. I moved a few years before he did, and he said we have followed each other. He did not know that I existed. He didn't know anything about me, and there are a lot of us.
How many are
There are 7 of us with 6 different mothers.
My goodness me.
But when you met him, he was so charismatic.
Can I take you to that point then?
Yes.
Can I just... So, you're going to meet him.
Yeah.
Where did you arrange to meet?
We meet at Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, fabulous.
Because Dunkin' Donuts is where he met my sister, and Dunkin' Donuts is where Vittorio always meets you. You want a coffee and a donut?
Oh.
I'm like, sure. So we meet in Dunkin' Donuts, and I'm driving, and I phoned a friend, driving to go, and because I was so like, am I going to find it? Am I going to find it?
Right.
And you know, tell me exactly which one. And there's so many freaking Dunkin' Donuts in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And as I drove in, he's standing in the car park.
Did you know?
I knew it was him straight away.
Did
I could
you?
tell.
Is it because of the look, or was it just... Or was there a
just looked
feeling?
so nervous that he was like pacing up and down. And then when we got out the car and we looked at each other, it's like I knew who he was. I mean, it's the weirdest thing, because these... And I also had met a parent before, so as I'm driving, I'm like, I'm a professional at this.
Right.
I know how to meet parents, but you know...
Was it a completely different feeling?
It's still incredibly emotional.
Oh, yes, I know that, but
yeah,
did you feel, when it's a father, was it like...
It's a little different from meeting your mother, yes. But it was also, I was so excited. And then he saw me and we looked, and I tell people that I'm looking into his eyes and I'm thinking, those eyes are so familiar. Where have I seen those eyes before? He had my eyes. It was like for the first time in my life, I'm looking into eyes, and they were the same. I had like these green sort of with yellow bits in my eyes. He had exactly the same eyes.
Oh, that must have been really
emotional. But it took me a while, because we don't have that mirroring as adoptees. Yeah. I'm looking at his eyes thinking, those eyes look familiar.
And your own staring back at you, aren't they?
But it took me ages to go, those are my eyes. And he still didn't understand to begin with. He was like, I don't know how you found me. I don't really understand what this ancestry is. We need to do a paternity test.
Oh, how did that
So
feel?
we literally, right then and there, we ran across the road. I mean, it was just, this is all written in my new play that I'm doing, and he took my hand and he ran me across the road.
Right.
And suddenly I'm holding my father's hand, right? With this mad Italian running across the road.
Right.
And the girl in the shop was saying, you know, we'd like a paternity test. and she's looking at me and him. And, you know, he's a thick Italian accent, right? I'm thick British accent. She's a real New Jersey. We're by the coast. Like, so she's totally baffled. She takes us to the pregnancy tests.
Oh my God.
So in front of her. And he's like, not pregnancy, paternity. And I'm like, here's my new play. This is it. It's all being written.
It's a comedy, isn't it?
It's a comedy. And he said, you know, you phone me when you get the results. Right. I knew that he was my father because Ancestry is amazing. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't get it wrong. Blood doesn't lie, but he didn't. He had to see that.
Right.
So I phoned him and he was like, I'm driving. I call you back in a minute.
How long did you have to wait between the test and...
Oh my God, it was a frigging nightmare because what happened was, with some paternity tests, you can get immediate results. If you share enough DNA from your dad, it'll show up straight away. It's a positive.
Right.
But with me, they said, we need your mother as well to be involved in this test. And my, you know, she's in England.
Right.
So then I'm like, Pat, you need to do this swab. They need to like make sure, Anyway, it's a complicated thing. Then it got stuck in customs. Then I had to send her another one. And I have to tell you, and then when the results came in, I remember I was shopping and I looked at my phone and it said you know, the result are in, and I just went home and I ran. I didn't say anything to the kids, and I just had to see it for myself. And then I knew it was positive, but I had to see it again, so that because I knew that was the only thing where he was going to realise.
Right.
And he was happy, you know, he was really happy. But it's complicated, and sadly he died 2.5 years of me knowing him. It was awful. Just literally dropped dead in the frigging street of a massive heart attack.
No build.
And he was young and he wasn't old.
How old was he?
77.
It's nothing, is it?
And my adoptive father had died 8 months before him. So I was in, you know, for a year, I'm just like, who loses 2 fathers in 8 months? An adoptee does. That's the difference. We have to grieve. We're always, you know, we have to grieve doubly for all these parents.
That's such a shock. I
Yeah.
mean, how did you get... I mean, that must have been a blur.
It was awful.
Wasn't
I
it?
just lay on the bed for a week, you know, just
Yeah,
going, I can't even...
Well, you can't even process something like that. One loss, bad enough.
Yes.
And then having found somebody...
Yeah, and I loved him. And his brother was an Italian actor. He had loads of brothers. I mean, brothers and sisters, like there's so many of them, it's ridiculous. Some of them were extras in Ben-Hur as gladiators.
No!
Yeah, and then extras in other movies in Italy. What's his name? The famous director just saw them all sitting on the beach. So come, like Polanski, come and be in my films. So I'm like, oh my God, these are my people. I did extra, you know, they did extra work.
Right.
And then some of them had bands. One of them was a very famous actor in Italy. And somehow it took all of that, and I'm now in my 50s, to say, I am an actor and I am a musician. It's in my DNA.
Oh my
I don't feel like a fraud anymore. It took that
my
only
goodness.
recently. Isn't that bizarre?
That is...
And his father was a poet, and when I was a little 4 years old, I used to write poetry all the time.
So really now it makes all sense of everything, every talent, it just makes sense, doesn't it? You found your tribe.
I found my tribe,
so
and I have siblings. And you know how I got through it was my sister, who I have a really lovely relationship with, who's adopted, and I have other siblings from him that are not adopted, but that didn't grow up with him. But her and me just have this, you know, we grieved together. We did a ceremony together. You know, we weren't allowed to go to the funeral. I mean, it's very painful stuff because people are still ashamed, you know, of who we represent.
Oh my goodness.
So
that is so sad.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised that you're writing another play about it.
Yeah.
Because
what
it does.
else do I do?
Yeah, because it does. It needs an outlet, and it's. But what is really interesting about this is that you have this enormous family.
Oh my God, so many of us.
To get to know. You've got so many people to get to know.
Yes.
That it's quite, I mean, it can be quite daunting, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, you sort of choose some of the siblings that, you know, won't really have much to do with us. His 2 boys, they defend his wife. who really doesn't want to know any of us because it's too painful.
All the politics, though, that are involved, and everybody's coming from their own agenda and what they're trying to protect, they think, or not protect, aren't they?
Yeah. But I've come full circle in the sense I went to Rome, and you know, when I used to work with Bob, we went to Italy a lot, we toured Italy, and I used to go and sit by the Trevi fountain, and you know, I always had that void about everything at that age. My family, my Italian family, were literally living down, you know, the streets from there. That's where he was raised. And after he died, one of the siblings and me, we went to Rome, and I met his sisters and a cousin. And I walked back around that area, and I was like, maybe that's why I was always drawn to going to sit there.
Right. And how was his family?
Just fantastic, because Italians, they don't.
It's all about family as well, isn't it?
They don't really care where you come from. They're like, oh, hey, come in. Oh. Yeah, they don't judge it in the same way. I think we have a bit of a different attitude. So
the chapter closed there from that sense of you've met your father and 2.5 years later he sadly passes away. Then you have all these siblings to deal with. I told you it's another thing all on its own, this, honestly. So you're all going to have to read your book. So the time that you met your birth father was the time, obviously, you met Richard, who is your partner. Would you like to tell us about Richard and how you met?
Well, funnily enough, Richard and Vittorio are both Aries males, and their birthdays were like really close together, and I was like, I don't know any other Aries males, and 2 Aries males, Aryan males came into my life. I met Richard just at a show one night.
And do you want to explain who Richard is?
Richard Thompson, who is a very good guitar player, has become very good. So I'm, as you know, the people that know him know, Fairport Convention, and it's been in this business for years. And we met. It's kind of complicated, but we became
OBE,
as everything is. Oh yes, OBE. But it's, you know, it's complicated, as a lot of relationships are, and there's divorce and you know all the rest of it. But anyway. We have been together the last few years, and he was with me during the poor guy. He meets me. I'm like, I don't know who my father is. A month later, I do know who my father is. Do you want to meet my birth mother, who had a brain aneurysm and was in hospital? So you know, he must have been thinking. I'm like, here's my birth mother. She's in hospital. Here's my adoptive father. He's
down the road.
Down here. He's in Southgate, you know, he's in and out of hospital. Here's my birth father, you know. But he just sort of took it all in his stride and was incredibly supportive through the losses. You know, thank God, because it was profound. And Richard, at the beginning, I said, I'm never going to sing in front of you, and I'm never going to play guitar. And he was like, you really need to think about that. I'm like, no, it's not going to happen.
I remember you saying that to me, actually. Yeah, I remember we met up when you came to London, and you said, no, I'm not going to, I don't really want to sing.
No, I don't want to do it. No, I'm not going to do it.
But having said that you didn't want to sing in front of him, excuse me, but don't you tour with Richard?
No, now I do.
Yes.
And so he tricked me in a way. He said, you know, I want you to sing with me. And I think I was more worried at the time about the story around us getting together and what people thought.
Yes.
That I felt quite pressured, and that people didn't really know me as a singer, and they think that I was only singing because of him, and you know, people didn't know my
background. Yeah.
So he tricked me. We were in the studio in LA, he was recording an album, and I was just sitting in the waiting, you know, in the room, and he just came out and goes, okay, come in, I need some harmonies on this, you're going to sing da-da-da, and I'm like, what? He goes, come on, and he didn't even let me think about it.
But how was that to sing in front of him? Or was it so quick you didn't?
It was so quick, it was like, he goes, you sing this part, sing it, and I'm like, and then the next thing I'm in there in the booth with him, and we're just, you know, professional, and he said, I need harmonies, and then he's like, right, next, sing this, sing that. But he told me after he wanted to do it that way, so I couldn't like run out the door.
Yeah,
clever. And so then very slowly he said, come on, do a song,
Right.
and very slowly, and now I've taken over the whole band.
So how did the band...
That was quite funny, actually.
Well, how did they take to you at the beginning? Because obviously, like you say, you're worried because they don't know anything about
Yes,
you.
nothing.
So it can't be that, well, she was working in Dunkin' Donuts, but because
Right.
I'm now dating her, I think I really fancy bringing her on tour.
Yes.
I mean, how...
Well, people do think that.
Well, yes,
That's the
they
whole
do,
point,
I
yes.
know.
Everybody's been very nice.
Right.
You know, I mean, there have been a few hiccups and not nice things, but that the woman always gets blamed for everything, as we know. So that was challenging. But on the whole, people have been really, you know, his fans are very, what's the word? You know,
Did they embrace you?
Well,
or did you
know,
get...
they're very protective of him.
Right.
So you could almost feel when you go on stage, like the first time I went out, you could almost feel this whole audience going, oh, he's mine.
Oh, really?
And then now I get nice feedback, and you know, some people are going to like me, some people are not. There's nothing you can do about that. But the most important thing for me is that he likes what I do,
Right.
and that I add to what he does.
And
I mean, listen, Richard doesn't need anybody up there singing with him, but he enjoys it.
Right.
He enjoys the different, you know, he enjoys including people. He's very inclusive.
That's lovely. Now, you see, that's lovely because that's
Yes.
generous of nature, and some
Really
people are
generous.
really not generous, especially
No.
in showbiz.
Yeah.
They're really not that
No.
generous.
No.
So, can I take you then to the Royal Albert Hall? I was so
yes.
excited for you, but I
Yes.
didn't get an invite. No, I didn't get an invite. I don't like to go on about it. I don't. She keeps saying she doesn't remember. Still can't remember. But so, the Royal, what was that like?
Oh, it was so much fun.
I
So
mean,
Richard
backstage.
yes.
What was it like? I mean, did you think like I'm where I should be, or did you just
I didn't really think about it like
No?
that. It was more like it was Richard's birthday, and
Right.
he was so busy. I was more worried about him resting in between because he looked absolutely knackered.
Oh yes, please
It was a really
explain.
long day. I mean, we literally got there at 11 in the morning. We had rehearsal, you know, sound check all day. That's what people don't realise. I mean, it was absolutely exhausting.
And he is there to celebrate him, isn't he?
To celebrate him, but he was on stage with every single act. The most exciting thing for me was I loved the Stranglers when I was, you know, a teenager, a young teenager, and suddenly I'm singing "Walking on the Beaches, Looking at the Peaches." And
That's surreal.
I was just like, take me back.
That's surreal,
I know, it's
isn't
surreal.
it?
And then I sang with, you know, David Gilmour, backing vocals for him, harmonies, sorry. Richard always likes the word harmonies. And it was more, do I know my part? You know, there was a lot to learn in a short period of time. But it was thrilling. And the audience, you know what's so exciting is that they love him. You know, his fans really love him.
Oh,
and it's a really nice
fantastic.
feeling to see that.
So you're saying that you run the band?
No, I'm joking. No, what happened was, in lockdown, I
Right.
decided to do my own album. I mean, listen, we've all been on lockdown, but what
Yes.
the hell do we do?
Yeah.
I had some songs, and Richard, you know, he's like, I'm not doing it for you. I'm like, please, why can't you do it?
Come on, Richard.
He's like, no, I'm not doing it for you. Like, I suggest
Right.
this, I suggest, and I'm just like, I'm like a child. He goes, I can imagine you at school, Zara. So I go off, you know, bring it back, teacher from my homework. And,
does he critique it?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
No, it's really scary. And I like revert back to like being 15 at school, like, screw you. We had a couple of arguments. I cried once.
Did you?
I cried once because I just thought, I can't.
The
do it.
critique's too
Yeah, I
much.
can't do it. I'm not of your calibre. I'm not of your calibre. But anyway, so then I ended up inviting his band in LA to record for, you know, because everybody's sitting around doing nothing.
Oh, so you just thought like women do. You're sitting around, you're doing
just
nothing.
making it up.
Yeah.
So he produced it, and then in the end I was like, oh, I'm going to contact his drummer, and they went in the studio in LA and sent the tracks. And now he thinks it's hilarious. He's like, see what happens? Get her to sing. He goes, she's taken my band now.
Fabulous though.
Yeah, and of course you have the best musicians. But now, of course, I want to do another album because I'm all excited thinking it could be way better than this album.
So tell us the name of this album.
Meditation in Kitkats. The reason I called it Meditation in Kitkats is because I was thinking about all of this that we've talked about.
Right.
And what if somebody said, how do you get through your life? Right? As a sober person, like, how do you get through your life? And I thought, meditation and Kitkats. I still eat Kitkats. So
summed it up.
that was it for me. And I love the cover. I really enjoyed creating that.
I love it. Well, I can vouch for the album because I have the album and it is excellent. As I have all your stuff, apart from Job the Pots because nobody told me. So I know I'm going to sort of wrap it up now because
Yes.
I think that what I really want to know about now is what you're doing next. Now I know you've just said about everyone's been on lockdown and none of us have been doing an awful lot. So I know somebody talked about the Palladium. Did I hear right?
So basically, Richard's going back out on tour.
Right.
And I'm going to be his harmony singer. He has a new book out, Richard's book, Bees Wing, really doing well. And he's going to be doing concerts and book reading.
Right.
So he's hiring me because basically I have no job. So he's hiring me, and I'm actually opening for him.
Is that a violin I can hear?
I'm opening for him, but let me tell you why I'm opening for him, because I got him a gig.
Did you?
I got him the gig.
Are you getting a percentage for?
But the opening act gets paid really badly.
Shocking.
But who cares? So I'm going to start playing my new album because I haven't even played it yet because of lockdown.
That's fun, but that's
yes,
a really
I'm
good...
excited. I'm really excited. So who knew, you know, whatever age you're back out there doing music.
So I was just going to say, you know, you really don't know what's going to happen in life, do you?
You just don't know.
And so you can be, like you've said, you've talked about thinking, oh, I'm not even going to even contemplate that, and look what's happening.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, Royal Albert Hall, now the Palladium.
And a one-woman show, I've written the draft of the one-woman show, and I'm hoping to go back to Upstairs at the Gate.
Fantastic.
So, but it's going to take time to do that, but I feel that then I've sort of told that story and I can sort of lay it to rest.
Well, I shall come see, as I always do.
Yes, I would love that.
Listen, my darling, it's so lovely to talk to you
too.
and to see
Really,
you
you
before
too.
you fly back. She flies in and out all the time and she's making me feel very small.
No.
And so I've really enjoyed that, and as I say, I'm going to put the links down below for Zara, so there is no excuse not to buy her album. And thank you for joining us, and we will see you again very soon. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.